You are listening to an exclusive on Pod Hub Network. Your city, your podcast.
To the delight of this crowd, McClendon marches down the dugout steps with first base.
McCutcheon's throw. The runner breaks to the plate. Here's the throw. Wow. He is out. The Buccos win. That ball's hit well to left center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Yo, good morning. Welcome to Starbucks on this glorious Tuesday morning. This glorious Jim, second place Pirates Tuesday morning. How are you all doing?
Doing good. Beautiful Tuesday. Derby week here in Louisville.
So that's right.
Big times. Big things happening this week. But yeah, our Pirates, second place, 11-11. I think they're 2 games back after last night's games.
Right. So I said, how are you going to mess around and go in second place? How are you going to move up the standings on your day off? That's how good the Pirates are right now. They're unbeatable. They don't even have to play.
Even the first place team lost, so they gained a half game.
Right. So I mean, this is like for real then, right? The Pirates, they're 500. They're going to play Kansas City, and then the Cubes once again. I mean, clearly they're going to come out this whole week in first place, right? It's a good team.
Okay, so Kansas City's no slouch, though. Winners of 5 in a row. They're in first place in the AL Central. So,
what is going on with the Central teams?
The
Pirates in second place. The Royals in first place.
I haven't really watched the Royals much this year, so I'm not quite sure why they're like they are. But they're coming off a 4-game sweep of the Tigers, so that helps. Playing the Tigers is a good thing,
right?
And it looks like they had a Rangers series that they won, so they're pretty bad. They beat the Angels, beat the Blue. They took 3 out of 4 against the Blue Jays, so they've been playing good ball.
Well, they haven't played the Pittsburgh Pirates yet, so
that's true.
You know what I mean? Right? Exactly. I mean, for real though, we're going to talk about the Pirates. Yeah, it's fun. I'm having a blast watching the 500 Pirates, but I think that's not going to last too long here. And again, we'll talk about that. But I think first, before we talk about that, Jim, there's something way, way, way more important we need to talk about. Madison Bumgarner pitched a game the other day. It was a pretty good game. He threw the ball a lot of times. Nobody hit the ball. And I'm not quite sure if we can deem it a no-hitter. But there's some controversy because, again, Madison Bumgarner did pitch a full, complete game. But that game was only 7 innings. And baseball has deemed it's not going to call it a no-hitter. So I think we should get right into this and discuss this. And I'll tell you what, I even put out a poll there just to get, you know what, it's you and me on here, but let's kind of fill it out on all our listeners and followers. Out of 400 people that voted on this, and I asked, was yesterday's outing by Madison Bumgarner a no-hitter? 73% said yes. 27% said no, it was not a no-hitter. So, as mentioned, let's dive into this. Let's talk. Jim, I'll give you the floor right now because I know you're pretty heated on this as well. Is this a no-hitter?
So according to the rule book that is in place right now, no, it's not a no-hitter. I'm here to tell you, though.
No, we're done. We're moving on to the next segment. We're going to talk about this Pirates bullpen because thank you for answering it for me. We're moving on.
I'm here to tell you the rule is stupid. It's a dumb rule. I don't see why it's so hard. Somebody brought up yesterday, like, just put no hitter and then a number 7 in parentheses. Like, baseball put itself kind of in this bind where, listen, I think we can all agree these 7-inning games are jokes. Like, they suck. I mean, something happens in the 5th inning and it's like, oh man, that was a big hit because this game's almost over. So I hate them. I don't like them. But if Major League Baseball is going to deem a 7-inning game a complete game, like this game is 7 innings long, and a pitcher goes out there and he doesn't give up a hit for that entire game, I don't care what your rule says, like, that's a no-hitter. The dude pitched the full game that you scheduled, and he didn't give up a hit. It's a no-hitter. That's just, I mean, that's what a no-hitter is. I think we can all accept, we can kind of all agree that I think these things suck, but baseball made a game 7 innings. So therefore a full game is 7 innings now in the case of a doubleheader. If you pitch a complete game no-hitter, it's a no-hitter. Just I'm fine with an asterisk. I'm fine with no-hitter, parentheses 7, whatever. Do something, but the dude threw a no-hitter. He went out there through the entire game that was scheduled, and he didn't get up a hit.
I love all those numbers. I love all that information you provided me, but you keep saying, it's a no-hitter. It's a no-hitter. Well, he threw 7 innings. It was a game. It was a no-hitter. Well, let me tell you what. A no-hitter by definition of MLB rulebook is an official no-hit game occurs when a pitcher or pitchers allow no hits during an entire course of a game, which you said that's true so far, comma, which consists of at least 9 innings. At least 9 innings, Jim. Which also means if you had a scheduled 9-inning game and say you're a pitcher of the home team, sorry, wait, you only pitched 8 innings. That's not a no-hitter because it was at 9. So, of at least 9 innings, in a no-hit game, a batter may reach base via a walk, an error, a hit by a pitch, a pass ball, or a wild pitch on strike 3 or catcher's interference. That is the complete definition of what a no-hitter is by MLB. Key point, which consists of at least 9 innings. So because Madison Bumgarner did not go out there and pitch 9 innings, he only pitched 7 because that's only what was scheduled for. He does not get credit for a no-hit because it is defined. MLB defined what a no-hitter is. We don't have to question it. We don't have to debate it. It's telling us this is not a no-hitter. Shut up, go home, enjoy this. It was fun. It's nice, but exactly what it was. It's cute. It's cute. You pitched 7 innings. Congrats. So did Armando Galarraga. He pitched 8.2. I'm sure he would love to have only had a 7-inning game schedule that day.
Again, I'm not saying that the rule says what it says, right? I understand the rule. I'm telling you the rule is stupid. Major League Baseball changed the definition of what a full game is. Therefore, a no-hitter should also be changed as well. I brought up the example, records and things happen all the time, when changes are made to baseball, right? In 1961, Major League Baseball extended the season. They added, I think it was 8 games to it or something like that. Roger Maris broke the home run record that year. Did he still break the home run record or did he not because they played more games? Like, he still broke the home run record. Yeah, they played more games, but he hit more home runs than anybody else in what was defined as a full season.
And my argument that is
So now Major League Baseball says a full game is 7 innings. A full game is now 7 innings. If Major League Baseball is going to tell you, okay, this complete game is going to be 7 innings now, and it's going to count the same as just a normal game, right? But it's 7 innings, and you pitch a no-hitter, and that full game that Major League Baseball says was a full game, it's a no-hitter. The rule is stupid. The rule is wrong. It's written incorrectly. They need to change the rule.
And I guess my argument to that is, so MLB did go from 154 to 162, right? And that was a change of the entire season. That's how baseball is going forward. So that's the new season. These are the same records. Yes, it does count. My thing is, if baseball changed the game again in its entirety, if baseball came out and said starting in 2021, MLB games are now 7 innings.
They did. They said that.
That's it. They came out and said this Mickey Mouse game is only 7 innings. Not in its entirety. So it's still, not every game that's played.
Still a game that counts in the standings.
And here's the thing, Jim. Here's the thing. If MLB did change the games for the entirety, right? For the 2021 season and going forward, games are just 7 innings. If they also don't update this definition, and even though it's a 7-inning game, you have to go into 2 extra inning games to achieve what a no-hitter is defined by, because they still haven't updated the definition and deemed that also allows 7-inning games, then this still wouldn't be a no-hitter.
Right. That's what I'm telling you now. The rule is wrong. It's dumb. And they should change it because they changed the entire definition of what a complete game is now. So they need to change this rule.
But they don't need to. Does it need to be a complete game? It needs to be 9 innings.
It is, though. Okay, well, I could say that it should be 9 innings, right? Like, we shouldn't be playing these stupid 7-inning games. But we are, and Major League is telling us to play these 7-inning games now. So all the rules should stay the same for a 7-inning game as opposed to a 9-inning game. So Bucko, Mike, and me are clearly correct on this issue.
We can come to an agreement here. MLB is dumb. MLB is dumb for putting this situation in our hands. And I'll tell you what. So last year in 2020, I totally understand this rule. I get it. I'm cool with it. I'm comfortable with it. Although they did also come out last year in 2020 to tell us that if there's a no-hitter in these type of games, they won't count as such. They came out and told you that they're not changing the rules. There's no different interpretation. That unless it went to extra innings and the pitcher pitched 9 innings in that game, it doesn't count as a no-hitter. So they were aware that stuff like this could happen. And I was cool with it in 2020. Perfectly understandable. It's 60 games, all the COVID stuff. You're probably playing a lot of double headers, which they did, especially talk to the Marlins and Cardinals. But in 2021, I don't really understand why we have to have these 7-inning double headers. So because MLB did this again and more or less put us, and not just us, but the players and Madison Bumgarner in this situation, it sucks. Because, okay, I will agree with you. By rule, by definition, this is not a no-hitter. I can see both sides of this. Like, it's not Madison Bumgarner's fault that he was only allowed to pitch 7 innings. I totally get that. So I'm Madison Bumgarner. I'm kind of pissed off because I had a no-hitter going. I was feeling myself, and it stopped. I couldn't go any further. I had no ability, I should say, to pitch 9 innings. So how's that my fault?
Well, what's stupid about this whole thing is like the rule just is different for different statistics. Like Madison Bumgarner got credit for a complete game shutout. Like his stats now show that he has 1 complete game and 1 shutout for the year.
Right.
So if it was good enough for that, like he pitched a complete game shutout with no hits. That's called a no. That's called a no-hitter. Like that's what that is called. So like I said, baseball, if they're going to change this rule and make a game say, hey, this game is 7 innings now, there's got to be 7-inning no-hitters. Like put it in a whole different category. I don't care. Like, again, you could have like no-hitters and then you could have your 7-inning no-hitters, but it's a no-hitter. Like I don't really see what's so difficult and why Major League Baseball can't just be like, the dude threw a complete game and didn't go up a hit. That's a no-hitter. Like, it's just very logical and easy and makes sense to me.
Yeah, Jim. I can't. I mean, I had to argue the argument here. I mean, I completely get both sides. You know, everything that you said is correct. But like the guys that I feel for on the other sense, you brought up a point where we said like no one who threw a no hitter like is going to be pissed that this guy only had to throw 7 innings. I kind of get that. I mean, there might be a little bit, you know, especially if, I mean, we're all competitive. You know, if I look at that and I'm a guy who like threw no hits, you know, then I look at like Madison Bumgarner, like he only did in 7. Like that kind of pisses me off a little bit here. But it's not even so much the guys that threw no hitters. To me, it's the guys who didn't get to. It's the guys that threw 8 inning no hitters that don't get to go in the rule books and down in history as throwing a no hitter. Because you know what? Honestly, I did a lot more than Madison Bumgarner. I threw 8.2 innings of no hit baseball, and no one gives a shit about me. No one's gonna remember me, and it's way harder to throw 8.2 innings of no hit baseball than it is 7. And
Unless
now Madison
Scherzer,
Bumgarner goes down in history
then,
as, I threw a no hitter, and he only did it in 7, and I pitched way better than him, and no one remembers me ever.
Well, then you put in its own separate category. Say it's a 7 inning no hitter, and move on with our lives.
I don't want to move on. So I guess, I'm okay. I'm okay with either. I'm calling this a no hitter. I know even in our texts and our talks, I've called this no hitter. I'm cool with it. MLB, I get their definition. Either they're going to have to update this, which I think they should. I honestly think they should. They need to change the rule book because you're right. Like it's not Madison Bumgarner's fault if they're going to implement these 7 inning games, right? And that's the other thing too. So let's talk about that. People were wondering about, well, what if there's like a rain delay and they shorten the game and such, right? They don't call that a no hitter. Well, I think the fair argument is because it wasn't scheduled for just those 7 innings or whatever. Like it was shortened. It's acknowledged that it wasn't a complete game, so you don't get credit for the no hitter, right? And like by definition, it's 9 innings. But because MLB now has implemented, has scheduled that games are to be played in its entirety at 7 innings, I do think they need to schedule it or update this. And I don't know, you said about like an asterisk and like a 7 next to it or something. I don't know how we're going to do it because I'm fully on board, you know, after all the steroid talks and everything. Like I don't like asterisks because I think at some point we're going to have so many asterisks in rule books and stuff that it is or it's not. So I don't know if maybe you want to do like no hitter, like you said, parentheses 7 to define it. Maybe that does make a little more sense.
Yeah, I think that's an easy fix to it. Like no hitter, parentheses 7. Boom. There we go. We're done.
Yeah. And again, since it's now defined in the rule book in a certain way, the 7 would make sense. And because you might have more of them in the future, you know, so you're seeing, you know, no hitter 7, you understand what that means, opposed to this asterisk, and then find out what this one, you know, what does this asterisk mean? I think I'm okay with that because he gets in the rule book, and it's also a little bit of, well, it wasn't a real no hitter like everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it and say, okay, it's a no hitter, but it was in one of those 7 inning games,
right?
It's still an accomplishment.
Cool
it's just
with that.
Yeah.
But you're right. It all comes down to the stupid 7 inning stuff because a 7 inning game is dumb. Last year, again, totally get it. Last year wasn't a real season. This year is more of a real season. We don't need it. I mean, these 7 inning games, you want to talk about like hiding inefficiencies. You know, if you don't have a good bullpen.
Oh yeah.
Like, you love this. You know, I mean, this isn't real baseball. It's just not. And it can really hide some inefficiencies for teams that can come out victorious. I mean, that's 2 full innings, 2 innings of, you know, your relievers that you don't have to use. If your pitching goes 6, you bring your closer, you're done.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them whatsoever. I'm cool with them. Like they've been around in minor league baseball for as long as I can remember. I'm cool with that, right?
Yeah, because who cares?
Right. Those games, they don't really matter, right? You're not trying to like go out there and blow out your prospects' arms and make everybody pitch. But I mean, when you're talking about Major League Baseball, and you can bring up the Marlins last year as an example. Like the Marlins really took advantage of this rule a lot. Like how many 7-inning games did the Marlins play last year? So you had the Marlins who ended up making the postseason because they necessarily didn't have to have as deep of a bullpen as everybody else. They didn't have to, go to their middle relievers in games as many times as other teams and get through that stretch of the game. And that allowed the Marlins to literally get into a postseason that they probably wouldn't have been in otherwise. I'm not saying they wouldn't have been, but the Marlins were a team that last year, let's be honest, they on paper they weren't that great. they just somehow they played a bunch of these 7-inning games and they were able to take advantage of them.
Yeah, they had decent enough starting pitching. They don't have a good bullpen, and like you said, like it helped them out. It helped them to get into a playoff situation, like because they had to play a lot of them. I mean, it almost benefited them to not play games.
Yeah,
to catch the Rona and not play games, so they could play a bunch of 7-inning games and then got their way into a playoff spot. Yeah, so I'm totally with you. The 7 innings is just stupid. So really, this all comes down to once again blaming baseball, blaming MLB that we're even talking about this. So I guess yes, kudos to Madison Bumgarner, even though we all hate you and you suck. Kudos to him for his 7-inning no-hitter. But
yeah, none of us actually like you. Don't take this as us liking you, Madison Bumgarner.
Right. And to be honest, like we say you suck in jest, but yeah, he's pretty much sucked since his days in Arizona. So now he gets a no-hitter. But yeah, like you mentioned, the 7 innings really helped out the Marlins because their lack of bullpen. But I'll tell you what. You know who doesn't have much of a lack of a bullpen right now? Those second place Buccos. You want to talk about a decent, and I'm still holding my reservations. Okay, recently they've been qualified, I will say it, as a lights out bullpen. Recently, right? On this little stretch they've had. But they are honestly a decent bullpen. And it starts at like the very top for me. Rich Rod has been outstanding this year, Jim. I mean, I think he's beaten all of our expectations. It's not as if we thought he was a bad pitcher by any means. We thought he was going to be a good trade chip. But like he is just on a whole nother level right now. And, it's funny. We've all been tuned into this Padres-Dodgers series, right? We're watching some games around baseball, and there's definitely a lot of teams that could use some bullpen help. Rich Rod is putting his way right there, I think, on the top of the list of trade targets this year. Put up some StatCast numbers on the screen. So, so obviously he has, as we mentioned, he's been good. For his year, he's pitched 9.1 innings. He has a 0 ERA. But it looks like it's not just smoke and mirrors. It's not just small sample. Mm-hmm. Like his expected ERA, 100 percentile. Expected WOBA, 100 percentile. Expecting batting average, 99 percentile. Like people aren't hitting off him, and they're not supposed to. And he is just like, what gets me to this year is he is just throwing his fastball like at an on-pace match, right? He's throwing it a lot, insane. But this year, like that's all he's doing is throwing his fastball. Mm-hmm. He's basically saying, "All right, here, hit this," and they can't.
He's thrown his fastball 89% of the time this year.
That's crazy.
114 pitches and 104 of them have been fastballs. So it's insane. Whatever it is, people aren't picking it up. They're not hitting it. They're not squaring it up. He hasn't given up a barrel yet this year. And it's crazy because it's not like, you may see that out of somebody who's like overpowering stuff, but he throws average velocity 93.2.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean,
he's not out here throwing 101. It's not like Aroldis Chapman. It's like, here, hit this fastball. I know you can't because I throw it 104.
Yeah, this day and age, like that's a pretty pedestrian fastball. So it's like, but something about that fastball. Hitters can't pick it up. They can't square it up. They can't make good contact on it. I'm kind of looking at the data on it, and I can't really see anything as to like why.
I mean,
like
it's got really nice movement. Like it has
good movement to it. And I think that probably just has more to do with like the arm slot, where he just releases the ball. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a 4-seam fastball,
right.
But I think it's just his location on it. If you look at kind of the heat chart where he throws it, up in the zone, and then like outside the righties and inside to lefties. So that's kind of where he's been living. With that pitch pretty much all year. And yeah, it is working. He has not given up a run, knock on wood here, since August 30th of last year. He has pitched 22 straight scoreless appearances. He has 22 straight games without giving up a run. I joked the other day, he's in like the Eric Gagne territory. He's coming up on that where he's just going out there and you expect him to just pitch a scoreless inning every time out. He's been amazingly consistent. Just absolutely outstanding this year.
I'm with you. And it's like, he came over from the Orioles and no one had any expectations. And like he had that really, really fine rookie season for the Pirates, and it seemed like after that, it kind of went downhill for him. He had a really low 2018 season, but I think a lot of us made the effort and point to that it came a lot on the early part. Really, if you look at his numbers in 2018, he finished a lot better. I'm not going to say he was like outstanding by any means, but he wasn't as bad. He wasn't as terrible. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry. I spent 18 in 2019. In 2019, like he finished the year a lot stronger. There's a lot of really, really poor earlier starts that, made his whole season that year bad, which it looked like a 3.72 ERA. We knew the home runs was a big issue, on the year, 1.9 home runs per 9. But again, it settled down more the second half and it carried over in 2020. As you mentioned, last year was actually a really good season in the shortened time. I know 23 innings pitched, but the Ks are up. The walks were down again. The home runs normalized a bit, 2.7 ERA. And then, yes, like it's just carried on again from this year. So it's like really, when you look at his career, he's actually had a pretty good career. Like if you take out that 2019 early portion, it's been solid, but it's been like progressively getting better since then as well. And yes, it's just like lights out, but he's not doing it with anything fancy. Like no one talks about this. Oh my God, Rich Rod is just spitting it out there because he doesn't throw anything about the fastball, and like you look at the fastball and you're like, how can't guys hit this? It's nothing like it's not like Cedarland's coming out there to pitch and you're getting excited because, oh my God, like this guy can throw, or, to bring him up. It's not like back when we had like Vasquez, you just look at that fastball, like, holy hell, is that amazing? But then he also pairs it with this outstanding slider. No, Rich Rod just says, I'm going to throw you 93 every single time, hit it, and guys can't.
It's amazing. Because you would watch him, right? If you just turned on a game and it was the first time ever watching Richard Rodriguez pitch, and you just saw him just throwing 93-mile-an-hour fastballs time after time after time after time, just consistently, you'd be like, how is this dude unhittable? He's given up one hit all year. 9 in the third innings, he's given up one hit. He's only walked one batter. He's just not, like, people are not getting on base. It's not even that like he's striking out a ton of people. His strikeouts are actually down this year. So people are, they're putting the ball in play against him. They aren't hitting it hard. They're hitting it. They're popping it up. His pop up, like everything's been a pop up. So there something with that fastball. It must be rising or something. Like no one can get the barrel on it. The average, I think I saw here, average launch angle this year versus Rich Rod, 32 degrees.
Right.
32 degrees. So, I mean, people are just popping the ball up against him. That's double launch angle than normal against him. So, like, typically he's in that 16 degree range. But, yeah, this year, 32 degree average launch angle. They're hitting the ball 90 miles an hour off the bat. So, hey, they're just popping it up.
Yep. And like you said, like it just
Mhm.
it's like a bit of an anomaly seeing this because like you're right, there's nothing that just stands out when you watch him, but he's doing it. And I know it's small sample right now, right? These 9.1 innings that we're talking about, but this isn't as if this is coming out of nowhere. Like that's why I want to bring it up. Like you know, in 2019, that second half was pretty solid. 2020, even though it was a short season, it carried over. It was solid, and here we still are. And of course, it's on a whole other tier. And I don't expect Rich Rod to go, you know, one hit every 9 innings, you know, pitched. But he's showing the consistency. He's showing that he is. We saw that Dodgers Padres series, right? Sunday night game when they had whomever was pitching out there, right? I forget, but both bullpens. I mean, we see injuries happening, but still, like both bullpens, they could have. Like, imagine if Rich Rod was in that bullpen right there. Imagine. Okay, so you already have your closer, you have a setup guy. Like, imagine Rich Rod being in like your middle inning somewhere. You want to talk about deep bullpen, you know? And I don't think this guy's gonna be looked at as upon like some elite type of closer, but you put him in your middle innings. I mean, that bullpen just got so much deeper. Unless you're having, you know, 7 games, it doesn't matter. But, you know, I mean, this is a real commodity here. And again, like he is doing it. If you want someone who's hot now, which is what a lot of guys go after for bullpen arms, you know, like who's looking good? He's looking good right now, but he also has a bit of a track record here. I'm loving Rich Rod this year. I think he can really bring in some, I'm not going to say a haul, but like he might be the biggest ticket this year. And that's not, I think, what many of us were really expecting.
I think the Padres should trade for him, and then they can just, to shut down games, just go Rich Rod and then Melanson.
After Joe, it's going to get Joe Musgrove, Rich Rod, and then Melanson.
Musgrove, yeah, Rich Rod, Melanson.
There it
That's
is.
what we're gonna do.
That would be fun to see. Now we have more reason to actually root for the Padres. You know.
Yeah. Melanson up there throwing 92 every time.
And then
Rich Rod throwing 93. You get those two guys just going back to back.
Along with Musgrove.
Yeah.
It's the anomaly of 2021 pitching. It's full old school.
Yeah. But no, I completely agree. I think Rich Rod's going to be looked at as someone who's going to be a valuable piece at this deadline. I think. So I would be expecting a move to be made with Rich Rod involved. And yeah, I mean, with somebody who could kind of shore up a bullpen, like, I mean, obviously right-handed relievers typically aren't valued that high, but if Richard Rodriguez, let's say Richard Rodriguez is this team's all-star, right? And you have Richard Rodriguez, your all-star Pirates closer, they're going to be able to get something for him.
For sure. And that's what's saying, like, he might be the best chip. And it's it is saying a bit to him. I mean, we are talking about him. He has been lights out this year so far. I think a lot of it too is also by default. I mean, it's clearly not going to be Chad Kuhl. It's, you know, like,
yeah,
Adam Frazier, I guess, would be the only one pushing for, like, who might bring the biggest haul back. Because Adam Frazier has also, as we're talking about Rich Rod, Adam Frazier's had an outstanding start of his 2021 career season. But, you know, obviously, too, this type of a reliever opposed to that type of second baseman, you know, I think you might get more out of Rich Rod than him. But regardless, like, and that's the thing too, like, he is controllable. I mean, there's some value to that. You know, I don't think that too many teams are going to stand out and say, well, we want Rich Rod because he has 3 years of control. It's not like a position player. Relievers are so inexpendable and they can just one day dissipate and be a bum. So I don't think that's going to add too much to his value. But I mean, there still is 3 years of control. You know, it's not just like you're going to get a rental here. Which also just kind of weird to talk about. Like, there's 3 years left of control for Richard Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not young by any means. He's 31 now.
Right.
He was a super late bloomer. Pirates acquired him, I think, when he was 28. So, that first year he was with us, even though that was his rookie year, he definitely wasn't a young guy. But no, he's been a solid piece of this bullpen for this is now his 4th year in the bullpen. And yeah, he had that one little hiccup to start 2019. But really, other than that, the second half of 2019 and every other year, he's been the most consistent arm on this team.
Yes. Yep, definitely. Not the most sexiest, but definitely the most consistent.
Yeah, definitely not the sexiest.
Now, to pivot here a little bit to another guy, talk about somewhat, maybe a little more sexier. I don't know. It's up to you. But Sam Howard. Sam Howard has looked, so he's like another one like Rich Rod. He came from Colorado. You didn't have a whole lot of expectations last year. He kind of proved himself that like he belonged in this bullpen. And then he comes out this year and it seems like he's stepping up a whole nother notch. Sam Howard, is there anything to talk about him? Because we want to talk about StatCast. Let's talk about that a little bit. We talk about expected stuff, right? Well, the expected batting average for Sam Howard, 94 percentile. His K rate, 94. Here's one thing that stands out to me, though. His whiff rate, he's in the 100 percentile rate. He is like, guys, you want to talk about guys that can't hit his stuff right now. It's Sam Howard. All right. When you look at his pitches, he throws a little bit more. He throws the four-seamer and the slider. But again, like he mixes up a bit more. The four-seamer's at 40%, the slider's at 60%. And guys are whiffing on it more than 50% of the time on each pitch. Both pitches are like outstanding. Guys aren't connecting with it. They're batting 0.56 on a slider, 182 on the fastball. They're not really getting much on it as well. Let's talk about exit velocity. He's 84 mile per hour exit velocity. Like, guys are not hitting it hard. They're not. That's when they hit it. You know what I mean? Like, usually they're whiffing on it. So, is there something more to Sam Howard as well this year? Is he building upon 2020?
He definitely is. And I think what has been the most impressive part about Sam Howard, he has amazing command of both of those pitches, which, out of a reliever, a lot of times the reason why people go to the bullpen, is because, maybe their control isn't that great. His walk rate is still kind of high, but he's throwing those two pitches exactly where you would want to see those two pitches thrown. And he's avoiding throwing them in the places that you don't want to see them thrown.
Yeah.
So like it's crazy. I actually don't know if I've ever seen a pitch chart like his. I'm looking at it right now, and his slider, he has not thrown a slider from the middle part of the plate in to a lefty all year long. Out of 81 pitches, he literally has not thrown a slider on the inner half of the plate. It literally hasn't happened all year. He's keeping that slider down and away to lefties. He's keeping it in against righties. And so he's not making mistakes with the pitch. He's putting it exactly where he wants to put it. And same with the fastball. The fastball's either been up in the zone or in against righties, jamming people. It's just he has just excellent command of those two pitches so far this year. He's not making mistakes. And I don't really care what your stuff is like, but if you throw your pitches exactly where you want to every time, it's going to be hard for a hitter to do anything with it. I mean, at the end of the day, hitting is probably the hardest thing to do in sports. Like, regardless of other, it's hard. It's incredibly difficult to do, especially when the pitcher puts the ball exactly where he wants. And that's what Sam Howard's been doing this year. Pinpoint command and control of both of his pitches. He's throwing it where he wants. He's not making mistakes with it. And when pitchers don't make mistakes, they don't give up runs. So that's what we've been seeing out of Sam Howard. Very impressive so far. He looked great last year. He looks even better this year.
That's where I'm at with him too. I think like for both of them, like Rich Rod and Sam Howard, like the one thing, because when you look at like you want to go down like the spin rate stuff, like his slider isn't like impressive in the sense where like Kyle Crick, you look at like Kyle Crick's slider, like holy shit, look at that movement. We look at Sam Howard, you don't really say that, but like you're saying, it's more as he's hitting his spots. The slider doesn't have a whole ton of movement. It's not where it's like, oh wow, this slider looks so impressive. He spins the hell of this baseball. No, but you're right. Like he's pitching effectively, much like Rich Rod, but he's also using a slider, unlike Rich Rod. Like again, his slider is 60% of the time, and he's just putting it in the right spots, and guys aren't hitting it. They cannot. Which that's the part too that just kind of baffles me. I mean, 50% whiff rate, that's incredible. Like if you look at that, you just imagine this guy has just filthy stuff, but that's really not Sam Howard's game. Like if this was again Kyle Crick that we were talking about, it would almost make more sense. But his issues, like they're inversed. He has zero command of his pitches. He has no idea where that baseball's going, but that baseball just moves so much that it certainly baffles hitters. Where Sam Howard, it's like he knows exactly where it's going. It just doesn't have a whole ton of movement, and guys can't get to it. So, and again, like that's too, like with the fastball, it's 50% as well. He's thrown both pitches. His slider 81 times, his fastball 52% of the time, or 52 times. Guys don't square up on it when they do hit it, and half the time they don't connect with it at all.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, just like do yourself a favor and just pull up Sam Howard's pitch charts on like where his locations are. It's incredible. I mean, there are entire pieces of the strike zone that he just completely does not throw the ball. Like he does not throw the ball in specific areas, and it's one of the best pitch charts I've ever seen.
Well, there's a stamp right there.
I mean, no, I'm serious. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a pitch chart like his sliders. Or his fastball and slider, there's literally at least 50% of the strike zone that he just does not touch.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's not even like a one-off situation. Like he doesn't touch it. Like
right. It's all the one-offs are
balls.
Way further outside.
When he misses, it's a ball. He doesn't miss in the strike zone.
Right. So that's why I say, like, we talk about this bullpen here, and, that was one of the strengths, and we say strengths lightly. It was one of their strengths on a bad team. Here's two guys we talk about that are performing a lot better than we anticipated. Definitely want to highlight them too. Even further into the bullpen, let's talk about even more players. I did bring up Kyle Crick. I think both of us were really wondering, like, what is Kyle Crick this year? Is he even, like, DFA worthy? Right? We talked about that as a potential. Is there anything about Kyle Crick? I know the numbers stand out as far as like, okay, he also has like a 0 ERA. Technically speaking, he looks good in those situations. Is Kyle Crick back to a degree where you're confident and comfortable with him being in that rotation? Like, is this sustainable to a degree?
He's still got to show me that he can not walk people. I do obviously like the slider movement. It's excellent. But again, it's just the command of the pitch. Like right now, he's just like being effectively wild at this point.
Yeah.
Eight scoreless innings. Like people aren't hitting the ball off of him. They're not hitting it hard. They are, they're swinging and missing, which is good to see. He it's not necessarily like his slider just kind of just goes all over the place, and he gets success when he can start that slider in the strike zone and it moves just outside of the zone. That's where he's successful. He just doesn't always do that.
Right.
I think I'm going to have like a wait and see approach. I will say,
look at his chart.
Yeah, I mean the slider is elite. Like the movement on it moves like crazy. And and it's moving more this year than it did last year. It's actually the horizontal break on his slider this year is the highest it's ever been in his career so far. So
And I would say he's the
that's
number one
good to
rated
see.
as far as spin rate. He has the highest
Yeah.
spin rate on his slider also in baseball.
So he is the slider's moving. It's a good pitch. So that's all that's good to see, right? Obviously, he that pitch he has locked down. He needs to throw it, and he needs to have a little bit more command of it. But so far, so good. He's throwing it well enough that he's getting people to chase. He's getting people to swing and miss. He's getting people to just roll over on it. So it's working so far. I'd like to see a little bit more of it. I'd like to see the walks, obviously, still go down, because at some point in time, he's going to hang a couple of those sliders. And if he hangs a slider, you just don't want people to be on base. So just try to avoid people getting on base. I don't want to see walk rates in the mid-teens. See if we can get that down a little bit.
So that's why, like, I'm still worried about Kyle Crick for those reasons as well. I mean, the stuff that we want to see improve, obviously, like the velocity. The velocity isn't back to the degree of like where it once was, but it's certainly improved upon. It's respectable. I mean, we just talked about Rich Rod's fastball at 93, and that's Kyle Crick as well. Oh, that's not normally where he's at. But here's like a thing too. So no one's hitting his fastball. You would almost think like if your Kyle Crick is up, right, all you're doing is hunting for fastball, because that slider is ridiculous. So you're just going to lay off of it. Not even like, don't seek the slider. Just go after the fastball. And it's not that great of a fastball either. Like we thought, like it's just 93 miles an hour. No one's hit it yet. Nobody has hit his fastball. But yeah, that's what worries me is the fastball is back a bit, but the slider also, yes, like it's almost like it's just too good. Like it's so good of a weapon. He has no. It's like when you watch like a super villain movie or a movie, right? Like the super villain like takes over these powers, has no idea how to use it. Like that's what Kyle Crick is. Like he's took over this unbelievable power, but he has no idea how to use it, and that's what this slider is. Like it's so good, but it just goes everywhere. And that's why I feel like that's it kind of worries me. That's what like we saw like Francisco Liriano is like, just people just stop swinging at. Like, the slider's coming, you just stop because it's not going to be for a strike, and just hunt fastball and clean them up. And that's why I still fear a bit of Kyle Crick.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The fastball is up about 2 miles per hour from last year, so that's obviously good to see. It's still not where he was before,
right?
But
because he used to sit about 95.
He was right around 95, now he's right around 93. Yeah, last year he was right around 91. But to be honest, if I'm fine with 93 with the way his slider's looking right now. The slider's great, so I'm cool with the 93 mile an hour fastball as long as you're putting it where it needs to be. Which again, so far so good. He has walked a lot of people, but the people who haven't walked haven't been able to do anything. So yeah, like you mentioned, I don't know if hitters are going to adjust and just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to not swing then, right? I
always think it's a fair point. If you have Kyle Crick up there, you could just have full intentions of, I'm not swinging the bat once, and you'll probably get on base. I almost want to try that as like an experiment.
Yeah. What would happen if you just had a full inning where just no one swung? Like,
right.
I guess eventually he might catch on, but yeah, but yeah, I don't know. He doesn't throw the ball in the zone very often. But the people chase that slider because it is nasty.
Yes, it is. So I don't know. Do you want to go even deeper in the bullpen? I mean, this bullpen has been good, but okay. So I guess let's kind of pivot this and transition this into like the 2021 Pirates. So I threw out. You know what? I should probably bring these up. The team as a whole is in second place. It's 11-11 as we joked about, right? But relatively speaking, the team isn't really that good. I mean, is that fair to say, Jim? Is there a lot of enjoy this moment because it's not going to last soon, probably at all for this team?
I mean, if you look at like the team stats and compare them to the rest of the league, the best the best stat we have compared to the rest of the league is the win-loss record. The other things don't really translate to that, and I think the Pirates clearly caught some breaks. Like they caught the Cubs at the right time.
Yeah.
Playing the Cubs early on in the year when it seemed like they really didn't know what was going on. I mean, the Cubs look terrible against the Pirates, whereas now the Cubs look a little bit more competent. But
competence,
yeah, they a little bit more competent, right? The Brewers, something happened in that series. The Brewers have been on fire lately, but against the Pirates, they lost that series. Yeah, it's been a really fun season to watch so far. Hopefully, it continues to we continue to see good baseball. The bullpen has been good. That is the one piece that you can say that you can look at compared to the rest of the league. Say the bullpen has been good. Other than that, the team's been pretty pedestrian, right? Starting pitching has been below average. The offense has been below average. There's a few performances, like individual performances out of the offense that you like seeing, right? Like Brian Reynolds, Adam Frazier, Phillip Evans. He's started to cool down a little bit, but he's still had a pretty good
to
year,
add to that
obviously.
list is also cooled down a bit. Colin Moran,
Colin Moran, yeah. But same thing. So those are guys that you like seeing, doing what they're doing. But overall, the offense hasn't looked great. If you compare it to the rest of the league. So
right, and then we put out some numbers there.
I don't know
so
if it's sustainable. Yeah, I don't know if it's sustainable, but so far so good. It's been fun.
Right. So yeah, to kind of put in comparison, right, to put some actual numbers to it. So the Pirates ranking stacks up against the entire MLB, right? So they're 23rd in weighted run created plus. So clearly the bottom half. They are 24th in offensive WAR. They are 27th in starting pitching ERA. That's bad. they're 27, of course, in starting pitching WAR. They're 8th in relievers ERA and 10th in relievers WAR, and they rank 27 defensively. So it's like the two things coming to the season that you thought would improve upon was defense for one, and the relievers, right? The bullpen. The bullpen certainly has so far. The defense has not translated at all, and I think we all can attest that with the eye test as well. Not just these numbers. The defense has looked pretty poor. And I think it was more in the early season. I think it's gotten better since then. Mm-hmm. But still, overall picture, right? It's been a pretty bad defense. So yeah, like when I look at these numbers and I say, well, the only thing that stands out as being above average and decent is the bullpen, and everything else is really below average to bad. Well, you're probably not going to have too many leads to use that bullpen, right? Which is your strength. So yes, and like everything you said too, I mean, these numbers kind of point to it. The run differential, which I know a lot of it was the Cincinnati Reds, series. They got the Cubs at the wrong time, and it almost seems as if every time they play a team, like their best player is hurt. Not take away. I mean, that's baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to give all these things to say this is exactly why the Pirates are bad and whatnot, but these are reasons. And I think the ultimate thing too, as well, is you're right. There's certainly performances that stand out, but it's not as if this team has much depth either, as we clearly see. Like I said, the stars and scrubs scenario, it's like, the average Joes and scrubs. Like there's some that are performing pretty decent, but like if Brian Reynolds goes down for an extended period of time, what is that outfield? Like how bad has this team really become now? And such, the starting pitching, like Tyler Anderson has really shown that he's been a lot better than we thought. JT Brubaker has been really good. Like if one of those goes down, then who's really next? Who's up? So, that's the thing I fear too. Like the injuries are going to happen right now. Pirates have been fortunate so far. No key. Well, I guess, obviously there has been one major key one. That's Brian Hayes.
Yeah.
But, like this team doesn't have a whole lot of depth at all either for a whole season.
Yeah. I think, at the beginning of the year and during the offseason, that's kind of the thing that I harped on that's going to ultimately be the reason why this team, breaks down. is just the lack of depth. Again, the outfield depth, you're kind of already seeing it. We already DFA'd 2 outfielders.
Right.
The next
It's
guy's
April
up really
25th, 26th.
Yeah. So and then it's like, okay, who's even there now to play? You now have Brian Reynolds moving over to center. Yeah, I mean, what happens? Like, Gregory Polanco goes down. Gregory Polanco goes down. Who takes his spot? Because the injuries are going to happen over the course of a year, so the depth is pretty key. So far, like I said, they have been pretty lucky with that. So that's been a plus. But yeah, I mean, looking overall, I really like what I'm seeing out of Brian Reynolds. I feel like we haven't talked about him enough. Really, really like what I'm seeing out of him, because he's a guy where he could potentially be part of future contending teams, right?
Mhm.
He's like that one guy on offense right now, since Hayes is out, that you're hoping will be around, in 2 to 3 years. So it's really nice to see Brian Reynolds be more like 2019 Brian Reynolds as opposed to 2020 Brian Reynolds. I mean, he's been outstanding. He's been outstanding this year. Just hitting the ball all over the place. He looks like his 2019 self.
He does.
Which is the approach is there. He looks exactly like he did his rookie year. And yeah, pitching wise, the bullpen's been carrying it. There's been some subpar starting performances, but when the starters do pitch competitively and can get the ball into the 5th or 6th inning, the bullpen's been able to hold the lead down.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. And you're right. Go. You're right. I don't think we have talked about Reynolds enough. He deserves more talking here, so maybe we should change that. But I'm with you. A lot of our concerns this year was Reynolds and Newman. Like, are they going to be more of a 2019 version or the 2020 version? Because both of them were the same thing. Like, they both had really, really good 19 seasons in the rookie year, and then 2020 just fell off a cliff. We're seeing one of the players, right? Like, it's definitely Brian Reynolds. Reynolds looks very, very much similar to 2019. So 2020 we kind of all talked about, like, you can kind of chuck that up. It's just a weird year. And I think that's what it is for him. Not to say that he's going to bat 300 for the rest of his career and all this, but he's certainly a competent, right, outfielder. He's more than just a fine player. And I think that is more of what you're seeing. Like, this is what Brian Reynolds is. He's having a good year. Kevin Newman, I think there's a lot to be judged on him. I'm not sure if we're going to take any positive right now. He did hit the home run in Minnesota.
He did hit a home run, yeah.
And 2 other outs were flyouts. So, like, the ball's getting in the air. His launch angle has gone from like -7 to like maybe 0 now. So, like, if there's some positive, maybe that's what we take out of it. At least the ball went into the air. But I think there's a lot more to be desired of Kevin Newman. But yes, Brian Reynolds certainly having a nice bounce back. Could be the future. We'll see. There's not a whole lot of outfield depth at all either, like, just in the organization and everything. So that could be another reason why maybe Brian Reynolds is here to stay.
Yeah, I really, really like what I'm seeing out of him.
Back to depth, like, again, you talk about, like, if Gregory Polanco went down. I mean, there's some concerns, like Gregory Polanco. Let's talk about roster spots, people who didn't in the offseason didn't want to see on this team, right? I mean, one of them was Polanco, just DFA him. One of them was Carl Moran. He sucks. He's a bum. Phillip Evans, what's he going to be? Those are all guys that are playing fairly well right now. Of all of them, Polanco's got the worst offensive output at a 99 weighted run created plus, so he's right about average. The guy that people are harping for and telling to be on the team, speaking of depth, was Todd Frazier. Todd Frazier currently is 0 for 14 with a -77, I believe, weighted run created plus. So yeah, if we're talking about depth, Todd Frazier is another piece, and it's not looking too good either. So just kind of carry over. I'm sorry, but just kind of carry over from our last show on NS9 Live, where he apparently wanted to go off that he made the club. He's over 14 now. Not sure if that's really deserving of talking too much trash on Twitter, but he's over 14 now.
Yeah, and I think now that the designated hitter. Like I think he was brought up mainly because
The potential.
of that DH. But I think now that we're back playing National League ball, I think his days are numbered. We could see a Todd Frazier DFA here any day now.
Right.
I mean, at what
Like,
point you can't let a
Brian
guy.
Hayes is saying he's feeling better.
Yeah,
I think that's his clock. When Brian Hayes comes up,
yeah, I think that's the move. I mean, you don't need a designated hitter now. They don't play an American League team on the road until the end of May 31st. So, like, what's Todd Frazier's role on this team without a DH?
not the way Moran's playing, not the way Philip Evans is playing. You're going to get Brian Hayes back, and it's not as if he's playing his way on a team.
Right. Yeah. So there's Frazier's not doing anything to help his ability to stay here. If he's going to be here, he needs to at least hit a little bit, and he hasn't done that yet. So, yeah, his days are numbered. I think as soon as Hayes is back, Frazier's gone.
Right. Which probably going to be hopefully sooner.
Hopefully soon.
We heard that Brian Hayes re-injured his wrist, got checked out. It's okay. They said he's probably just got to play through it, type of thing. And I should say he did, but Shelton came out and said that Brian is feeling a lot better recently with the wrist. So yeah, maybe Brian Hayes season returns here shortly, which I think we all would love to see. As mentioned, the Royals coming to town. Then the Cubs. Cubs are playing better. Royals are playing good. Not to be the downer, this could be the last time we see the 500 Pirates.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the Royals. They've got a good pitching staff. Do we face Danny Duffy at all? Because he's just been like out of this world. I haven't looked to see who lines up against who. Doesn't look like we get Duffy, so that's good because he's been awesome. So yeah, that's two lefties. It looks like 2 lefties this week. I don't know.
Pirates don't fare well against lefties, so
it's a righty and a lefty.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. I'm glad to have baseball back. Yesterday was an off day, so I feel like there's been too many off days in April.
And we get 2.
Baseball,
and we get 2 this week. Yesterday and then Thursday we get an off day.
Killing me.
Oh, we're gonna get Mike Minor tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, even though he's a lefty, maybe we'll have some success against him. All right. Yep. So any other last words before we go?
I think we covered it all.
Good deal. All right. Well, then I guess we'll be back. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Later.